Some people work on the edge of health. Others work on the edge of science. Mark Dini operates where those two worlds collide. Mark is a functional health practitioner and educator whose work spans quantum and circadian biology, advanced functional medicine, cutting-edge peptides, and deep biomarker-driven diagnostics. At the highest levels of entrepreneurship, he's known for one thing above else, helping elite business owners build bodies that can actually sustain the pressure of building extraordinary companies. For decades, Mark has worked with high-performing entrepreneurs who understand one simple truth. When your health degrades, decision-making suffers, your energy collapses, and your business quietly stalls. His work focuses on restoring biological resilience so performance compounds instead of erodes. The result is not just better health, but clearer thinking, sharper execution, and businesses that thrive because the founder does. Mark is the founder of Rhythm Peptides, a research-driven company founded on tissue-specific bioregulator and cellular signaling peptides. He's also the founder of Rhythm Red Light, where he designs next-generation red and near-infrared light devices built around pulse frequency technology to support mitochondrial function, healing, and circadian alignment. Beyond private work with his elite clients, Mark has deliberately taken the systems he refined over decades and makes them accessible to the public through the companies that he builds and leads. While he's widely regarded as one of the world's leading authorities on peptides, he's uniquely known for integrating functional medicine, Eastern medicine, and Western medicine into a single results-driven model. At the core of Mark's work is one belief: when light, biology, timing, and intelligence align, the body doesn't just survive, it regenerates and it thrives. And before we hop into the podcast, a quick word from our sponsor, Deep Wealth and the Deep Wealth Mastery Program. We have William, a graduate of Deep Wealth Mastery, and he says, I didn't have the time for Deep Wealth Mastery, but I made the time and I'm glad I did. What I learned goes far beyond any other executive program or coach I've ever experienced. Or how about Bruce? Bruce says, before Deep Wealth Mastery, the challenge I had with most business programs, coaches, or books was that they were one-dimensional. Through Deep Wealth Mastery, I'm part of a richer community of other successful business owners. The idea shared forever changed the trajectory of the business, and best of all, the experience was fun. And we'll round things out with Stacy. Stacy said, I wish I had access to the Deep Wealth Mastery before my liquidity event, as it would have been extremely helpful. Deep Wealth Mastery exceeded my expectations in terms of content and quality. And you know what, my Deep Wealth Nation, why they're saying this is because Deep Wealth Mastery, it's the only system based on a 9-figure deal. That was my deal. And as you know, I said no to a 7-figure offer, and I created a system that we now call Deep Wealth Mastery that helped myself and my business partners welcome from a different buyer, a different offer, a 9-figure exit. So if you're interested in growing your profits, preparing for a future liquidity event, if that's 2 years away or 20 years away, and you want to optimize your post-exit life, Deep Wealth Mastery is for you. Please email success@deepwealth.com. Again, that's success, SUCCESS, at deepwealth.com. We'll send you all the information about Deep Wealth Mastery, otherwise known as Scale for Ultimate Sale. That's where you want to be. You want to be with other successful business owners, entrepreneurs, and founders just like you who are looking to create market disruptions, and they want to lock in their financial freedom and have success and fulfillment. That's the 90-day Deep Wealth Mastery Program. It has your name on it. All you need to do is take the next step. Send an email to success@deepwealth.com. Deep Wealth Nation, welcome to another episode of the Deep Wealth Podcast. Deep Wealth Nation, you know me and my rhetorical questions. Let me ask you this. How is your health? Is your health a shining picture of being vibrant, full of energy and focus? Or each day you're getting out of bed, you have aches and pains, low in energy and brain fog? Because here at Deep Wealth, what we often say, not only is health our first wealth, you can have the best business idea in the world, even the best business, but if you're not healthy, if you're not with optimal energy and focus, the business is going to suffer. And if you're raising capital, if you're looking to sell the company at one point, forget about it. These are life-changing decisions. You've got to be on your game 100%. And that's why here at the Deep Wealth Podcast, we say it's extracting your deep wealth, pun intended, both on the business and the personal side. And so with that in mind, we have a very special guest in the House of Deep Wealth. He's a fellow entrepreneur, founder, thought leader, and he is just hitting it out of the park when it comes to all things health. Mark, welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast. An absolute pleasure to have you with us. There's always a story behind the story, and you have quite the story. What's your story, Mark? What got you from where you were to where you are today?
Amazing. Thank you, Jeffrey. Firstly, just very grateful for you having me on the Deep Wealth podcast. I'm truly grateful for that. My story, okay, so now I'm going to compress a very long story into a very short time frame. I was a very sickly child. When I was 9 weeks old, I got diagnosed with meningococcal septicemia, which is meningitis B. Luckily, my mum took me for a second opinion on that. They initially thought I had an ear infection and she didn't believe them. So getting that second opinion saved my life. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. But back in the 80s, when things like that happened, not knowing the downstream ramifications of copious amounts of antibiotics, they just obviously pumped me full of antibiotics just to keep me alive and to make sure that I was well again, which is what they did. But that later on, obviously through my childhood, meant that my immune system was basically compromised. And I caught every illness under the sun, from measles to mumps to whooping cough to you name it. My mum's got a very, very thick book of all the things that happened. Lost my sight for a little while. I lost my ability to hear for a little while, constant chest infections and all the other types of horrible things. And it just didn't set my immune system and my health up in a very good way. Fast forward into kind of like my early 20s, I'm still getting all these things happen. And then in a very kind of high stressed environment, my body started to capitulate. Add on to that, when I was 15 years old, my rugby coach at school, that's almost like American football for people that are from that side of the world, he decided he was going to do a static demonstration of how to do a tackle and decided that he would actually follow through on that tackle. And he put my kneecap around the back of my leg. He partially tore my ACL, partially tore my MCL, tore my meniscus cartilage, my patella tendon, the articulate cartilage, all that kind of stuff. 4 surgeries on that one knee just to get it right. And that's from the age of 15 up until 2020 was the last surgery that I had on that knee. I've had both shoulders rebuilt. I had my right arm rebuilt as well with wires and what have you because of a gym accident. So 8 surgeries deep right now. So I could quite honestly be called the Bionic Man. But from the age of say like mid 20s, I started to show signs of what the doctor then said was IBS, and it was misdiagnosed. Unfortunately, it was early signs of, I guess, an autoimmune. I managed to keep it in remission for a little while, but then come end of 2022, beginning of 2023, my body went into a very deep autoimmune flare state of ulcerative colitis. I was losing about 2 cups of blood a day, maybe 15, 20 bowel movements. I lost about 10 kilos of weight. You name it, my body went through it for a full 10, 11 months, and it was the most horrible thing that I think I've ever experienced, minus the surgeries that I've been through. I would much rather have surgery than go through all of those things. Also, when I was 24, just forgetting that one as well, I got my body, I'm very careful how I word these things subconsciously as well. My body got diagnosed with something called Schauman's disease, which is where the middle to the lower portion of your spine is compressing and the discs are very thin and grey rather than thick and white. And my discs, rather than being smooth, were ridged like knuckles. And they said that they wanted to fuse my spine with metal rods. And if I didn't, by the time I was 30, I was going to be bent double like a 90-year-old man. As you can imagine, with all these things, particularly with the metal rod in my spine, which I don't have, I said no and I fixed it myself. The ulcerative colitis, the leading gastroenterologist in the UK at the time, from the leading gastroenterological hospital called St. Mark's, once basically told me that if I didn't take biologics, they were going to be cutting out my colon. And I said, no, you're not going to be cutting out my colon. I was like, I don't accept that diagnosis at all. Again, being very conscious of what I allow into my subconscious mind. And so, again, healed that myself. So, all of these things that have happened to my body up until this point, outside of surgery, which was obviously needed, before and after the surgeries, I'm looking after the health myself, utilizing the things that I've learned through this whole journey of like functional medicine and peptides and all these other types of things. And so, I've now, due to that, got a plethora of personal experience when it comes to rehabilitation, biomechanics. I was a personal trainer for 15 years, so I'm certified for all those types of things, nutrition, and I studied psychology and Freud and Jung and all those other types of things. And so I understand the mindset behind it all as well. And over the years, it makes you think, okay, well, I've got all these sporadic, unconnected things that I've spent my time learning. How do I bring all these into a very nice ikigai so that I can create that purpose and then obviously start putting it out there to the world to better help others? And that is the main thing that got me through all of these things, which was they're happening for a reason. This is going to enable me to help myself or others going forward, take notes, experiment, fail, learn, fail forward, because obviously that's the most important thing. Find the silver lining with all these things. And that is what then has led to me being dubbed the Waymaker, because I am living proof that you don't have to necessarily follow the standardized stuff which we're told, and there are alternative ways of getting you to the places that you want to be. So that is my very short story up until this point.
Wow, Mark, unbelievable in terms of what you went through and all the different ailments. And okay, you couldn't see, you couldn't hear. Wow, most people don't go through that. If you
No.
remove, that's a big part of your journey, but if you remove that for the moment, if you spoke to most other people, it's par for the course what you've gone through. Lots of antibiotics, you're following what the doctors are saying. And for someone listening in, they maybe say, Mark, oh, so what? Big deal. Sounds a lot like me. And that's what
Mhm.
everyone's doing. What's wrong with that? So, from one entrepreneur to another, one founder to another, what is wrong with that? Because oftentimes when we're going through the, I'm going to call it not healthcare, but sick care system, and don't get me going on big pharma and how the best business model for them is for me to remain sick, not to be healthy because it's a bad
Yep.
business model for them. We forget what it feels like to have youth and optimal health and energy and focus.
Mhm.
We take the new normal, which really isn't normal, but we take it as a new normal. So
Yep.
someone who's gone through the typical course of antibiotics and they're eating all the foods that we're told to eat and just following their doctor, and you go for your annual physical, maybe you get 7 minutes, and that's on a good day, and you're just going about your life because the doctor's saying, hey, everything's great, not to worry, you're like everyone else in the healthy range. What's wrong with that? Let's roll back the curtain and big picture wise, from an entrepreneur side of things, what don't I know that I should know? Because ignorance is not bliss when it comes to health.
It's very true. It's very true. So everybody knows this when they go to see their doctor. They're going there because they're not feeling right. They know that something's wrong. And you'll get a blood test back. It'll be a sporadic bunch of markers. It'll maybe be 6 or 10. You might get a hormone here and a liver marker there. And then the doctor will come back and say, yeah, everything's normal. Yeah, but I don't feel normal. I don't feel right. Or somebody might get diagnosed with diabetes. Oh, yeah, that's quite common. Okay, common isn't normal and normal isn't good enough. So the reason why that's an important thing to remember is because the markers, the metrics that they're measuring you against when you go to see a doctor and you get something like your blood's done, the marker ranges that they use are based the average of the people that go to see them. Now, the only people that go to see a doctor are people that are sick or people that are elderly. Now, in our society, once you're up in that elderly range, the body has broken down to a certain degree that, that the hallmarks of aging, and we're told this is normal, quote unquote normal. And these averages, well, I don't want to be the average of the sick or the diseased. I want to be optimal. I want to know what my body should function like. Now, if we look at the track record of Western medicine, it is fantastic in emergencies. If I've got, like, as an example, my dad had open heart surgery, he needed open heart surgery. You're not going to go and see a functional medicine doctor for open heart surgery. You need to go and see a heart surgeon for open heart surgery. If there's an accident and there's bones broken or hemorrhaging or there's viral infections which need antibiotics quickly, yeah, you need these things because, again, there's no herb that you're going to rub on you that's going to make that go away. You're going to need something which is going to help you. That I understand. But when it comes to the other things, as you quite pointedly noted, there is no profit in cure. There is incentives dictate outcomes. There's a reason why, when you look at all the metrics of disease in the Western world, they haven't got better. No matter what Western medicine or big pharma finds out from whatever medication, nothing's working. Nothing's making diabetes go away. Nothing's making the obesity pandemic go away. Nothing's making anxiety and depression and suicide go away. These things are failing badly and very openly, but yet we're told that, again, this is normal. You'll go and get something like a statins. Statins is like a $750 trillion business. They've got incentives to tell you to take them, but they're not understanding that 70 odd percent of cholesterol in the body is made by the body. So having cholesterol is needed because it's the backbone for hormones and all other beautiful things like that. And without it, particularly LDL, you don't make them. So crushing LDL is a really bad thing. And also from the statin side of things, it's a mitochondrial killer. We've all got mitochondria in our body for a reason. And if I clicked my fingers like Thanos from the Avengers and made everybody's mitochondria disappear, we'd all be dead within seconds. That's how important they are. And so with something like statins, it's got one clinical use, but multiple compoundal side effects. Well, what you want is to take something which has got multiple compoundal positive effects and minimal side effects. That makes more natural alternative options slightly more favorable for the body because one, they're normally in their natural state, which the body understands. They're not a chemical compound. And two, they just don't have this plethora of side effects where, okay, you're on one medication, so now you need to take another medication to counter that medication, and then so on and so on. And now you're in this Western medicine silo where you can't get out because you're trapped in this thing of you can't stop taking that because of this and you can't stop taking that because of that. And if you do, this is going to happen. It's going to be a rebound effect. And again, if we just look at all the people that we know and we look at this from an anecdotal perspective, all the people that you know that are on medication, are they better? No, they're not. Because the main drivers of all of this aren't being addressed. The main focal point is not being addressed. We have to do the common things uncommonly well. So, as an example, we are majority of the time, I'd say more than majority of the time, the statistics is 96% of the time indoors, but we are an outdoor mammal, which means if we don't get those correct circadian codes from light and temperature and grounding, like putting earthing, bare feet on the ground, our body doesn't really know what to do. And so, just from simple things like getting more daylight, being outside more, it changes the way the body processes a lot of cellular things. And we're not told this. And when you look at the food, it's only just recently that you guys have just had a new food pyramid, which literally flipped the old food pyramid upside down and said, okay, all the things that you were told you should eat is now at the top, which is very little. And all the things that you were told you should eat a little of is now at the bottom. Because all this time, it's not been about your health. It's been about the six main companies that control all food, all chemicals, all access to all things saying, no, you can't have this food because we've made a synthetic version, which means that we make profit. And yes, it's void of all anything necessary, but we fortified it with vitamins. But why not just eat the real thing? It's already got the vitamin in there. Why does it need to be fortified? All of this doesn't make sense to me, but like that's the stuff we're not told. We're not told the basics to do the common things commonly well. And then we're just looking for this quick fix because, you know, all of a sudden we've got brain fog. Okay, so I'll just have more caffeine or I'll take this supplement. It's just another way of consumption. It's just consumerism. That's all it is.
Okay, so a lot there to unpack. And Deep Wealth Nation, I want you to think about this. And Mark, if I'm on base, off base, you let me know along the way. Let's go back to what you said at the beginning, where health standards have gone down so much that when I now get my labs or any tests that are checking, hey, Jeffrey, you're healthy, you're not healthy, when I get the results back, who I'm being compared to isn't so great. So to try and simplify this, it would be as though going back to the school days where let's say 90% was, hey, out of the park, that's a solid A, you're doing things really well, your retention is great, but the general student population isn't doing so great. So a 90 now becomes a 55, which on the old standard would be, hey, 55, that's near failing. You're not doing so great. You're not retaining. It sounds like on the health side, that's exactly what happened. So I'm now saying, I'm now going to my doctor, hey, Jeffrey, you've got an A for your health. But that A is a 55. That's really like a D bordering on an F. How am I doing with that so far?
Totally accurate. And I've got a very real world example of that. So if we just look at male hormones as an example, the range for testosterone was, if you go back to like the 80s and the 70s, was way higher from a doctor's standard than it is today. And that's because the trending markers were going down so quickly from the people that they were testing, they had to move the average. So rather than your testosterone now being in America, it could be up in like the 800, 900, 1000s, they've now moved it down to 600. 600 is now the new normal, where 900 was the normal before. So all they've done is they've skewed the metrics so that way then you look normal when you're not. in any way,
So
shape, or form.
really, we're being sold a false bill of goods.
Yeah.
Just now know if you've noticed, Deep Wealth Nation, the sizing of clothes have changed and not in a good way. What used to be a small, I'm making this up, it might be now a medium or maybe even towards a large because people have become so obese that everything has changed. So, Mark, I know offline you were sharing with me, you've done something really interesting. You
Mm.
have been through all of it when it comes to the health side of things personally, and you had to figure out a way to get back to optimal health. You've done that. You then
Mhm.
made that your life mission. You took what could have been really a huge negative and you turned it into a positive. You made lemonade out of lemons, as the saying goes. And what's interesting about you is you work with ultra successful people,
Yeah.
people of high net worth, and you're doing one-on-one coaching with them and you're helping them grow their health. And at the same time, they're growing their businesses and other parts of their life. But at the same time, it's not just exclusive for them. You're sharing how you're taking that out to the general public as well. You have a number of companies that you're doing some incredible things in. One of your specialties, I know, is peptides.
Yeah.
You shared something offline with me that I never really thought about. And you said, Jeffrey, peptides, as great as they are, and yeah, it's a lot of headlines today and everything else, even the best peptide in the world will not be enough if there's other things that are going on in the body. So someone who's reading these headlines and, hey, I want to get this peptide, and they spend all these dollars on it, they may not realize that without the proper kind of insight and looking at the whole body, the peptide perhaps is a waste of money, that it can't do what it should be doing. So as an entrepreneur, and I know I represent Deep Wealth Nation, who I want to get the most out of my personal life. I want to have an incredible legacy. I want to have a business that is running on its own and it's scaling and has massive profits, but I need my health to do that. So what do you want me to know in terms of health-wise? Where am I missing the boat? And it's really an unfair question because you could say, well, Jeffrey, every individual is unique. They're different. Generally speaking, though, when you're working with fellow entrepreneurs and founders, is there a Pareto's principle, an 80-20 principle? Yes, Jeffrey, 80% of the health challenges that people have are coming from the same 20% of these patterns or these issues over here. What would you say to that?
I would agree 100%. And I can give you two very clear things that you can look at when it comes to why that is happening. The first one is signal. So we're looking at signal over noise inside the body. Everything inside the body runs on signals and timing, or zeitgebers, as they're known, time givers, timekeepers. And then the downstream effect of that, which would be inflammation, or what is now known as inflammaging. This is when the body is in a diseased state and it's losing control of its homeostasis. It basically can't maintain balance. There's too much coming in and not enough going out. So there's too much breakdown, catabolism, and not enough repair, anabolism. So with those two, if we can focus on the first one first, get all the right signals happening, inflammation generally will start to go down anyway. And then if we can start looking at the things which cause inflammation in the body and we start getting a handle on those things, then we can start pushing when we can push and pulling when we need to pull and pausing when we need to pause. And that's the three P's when it comes to all things in life. We need to know when to push. We need to know when to pull back, and we need to know when we need to pause completely. And this is the same as if you're going to the gym. You can't go to the gym 6 days, 7 days a week, training intensely all the time, because you're never giving your body that signal that it's safe and that it's able to repair now. Repair is going to be happening when you're not doing those things. And more importantly, when you're sleeping. Now, as entrepreneurs, we're told sleep faster. This is what Arnie said, sleep faster. Okay, well, that's great. But we need a certain amount of sleep to enable the body to recover properly. And we need a certain amount of stages of sleep to enable the body to recover properly. So if we go back to that cellular signaling, signal versus noise, at the moment, for most people's body, it would be like sitting in a room with 1,000 TVs, all of them turned up to maximum volume, all of them having a different channel on it, and me saying to you, right, Jeffrey, tell me what's happening on TV number 34. Without turning all the others off, you wouldn't know. You might see a picture of a cat, but you don't know what they're talking about because you can't hear it. This is what's happening inside the body. We take copious amounts of things all day, every day, because some influencer who's got a six pack or whatever said, this is what's helped me get here. I take these things and I take that thing and this thing and that thing. Yeah, okay, but they probably looked like that before that anyway. And we don't actually know what's going on under the hood either, biologically speaking, from a biological age. We can see chronologically how old they are because they probably put it in their bio, but we don't know biologically what's going on. So outside doesn't always match the inside in that regard. So how do we create signal over noise? If we cast our mind back, and I'm sure we're all in that same age group where we remember when the first Sky dishes came out, massive things that you'd have to put in your garden because they wouldn't fit on a wall or they'd pull your house down. If you had them knocked by zero point 0.1 of a degree, all of a sudden you'd lose like 50 channels. That's because the signal's no longer clear. So just by moving it back to where it was, you'll get those signals again. Same way with that whole quote of if a plane is off by 0.001 degree, by the time it reaches its destination, it can be many miles away from where it's supposed to be because of the trajectory. It's the same thing in the body. So what we need is clear signal. This all comes down to cells, cellular membrane and cellular membrane potential. And this is about positive and electric charge, basically, of the cell. The way that the cells do this is through membranes, fats, lipids. So we need to make sure that we have got a very good foundation of cellular membrane health, utilizing the correct omega-3, 6, and 9 ratios, taking things like phosphatidylserine. There's great companies out there like Body Balance that do bio oil and balance oil, which helps balance all of these things in the body. And when we start getting control over these, the signals when they go into the body from something like a peptide, rather than the signal getting lost and only 20 odd percent, 30 odd percent, I'm just making the percentages up here, getting through, you're now getting 70%, 80%, 90% of the signal getting through. And there's no confusion. They know exactly what they need to be doing. And that's the most important thing. Next to that is you don't know what you don't know. So if you are exploring the world of peptides, and again, you've seen someone on YouTube or Instagram or Twitter or X, whatever, saying, I take this and this. Now you've got 5 signals all going in at once. You don't know what's doing what because you can't feel the difference. It's a little bit like saying to you, right, when you take your vitamin D supplement, how do you feel? Well, you don't feel anything because it's not something that you can sense. Same thing. So we need to do these things in orders. Start with one peptide, see how you feel. Do that for a couple of weeks, get a baseline, see what it's improving, if it's improving. If it's not, increase dosage, change timing. These are all N of 1 experiments. Cellular signaling needs to be good. Redox potential in the body needs to be good, which is the giving and exchanging of electrons and stuff in the body. That needs to be good. So we need to make sure our redox potential is working properly. All of that will come down from that cellular membrane stuff. And then the inflammation side of things. So if we think about all the things that cause inflammation in the body, food, thought processes, and stress within the system, what we put our body through on a day-to-day basis. So training, cold ice baths, saunas, breath work, high stakes meetings and deadlines, and staying up until stupid o'clock in the morning because you've got to get that email out, because if not, the world will explode, and all those other types of things, only getting 4 hours of sleep because you've got to get up and grind, doesn't work after a certain point because there's only so long you can work like that. We've all had that burnout experience where we're like, I'm burning out, but I've told this person I'm going to do this on this day and no boundaries set. You're staying up too late. You're not getting enough sleep. You've got inconsistent sleep times, inconsistent wake times. The second you wake up, you're on your phone straight away. Not a good thing because the brightness off your phone tells your body it's midday. If you're waking up at 6 a.m. and you're staring at your phone and the sun hasn't even risen yet, your body now thinks it's midday and it's panicking, thinking, right, those 6 hours of things that should have been done haven't been done. What's the minimal effective thing that I can do? So cortisol spikes at the wrong time, all of these things. So it's about getting the foundational things in line, stop pushing the body too hard, and allow that balance to happen. That work-life balance needs to happen.
So interesting. As you're talking about this, Mark, it reminds me of a very good friend, and he often says, Jeffrey, timeliness is next to godliness, meaning you can do all the right things, but if your timing is off, you have big issues. And from what you're saying here, my takeaway is when it comes to health in particular, again, I could look to be doing all the right things. If my timing's off, if I'm not doing one thing first and putting what should be done last, I'm doing that first, I'm likely wasting time and money. So that said, why don't we go and take the curtain back even more? Big picture wise, high level, you're working again with incredibly successful entrepreneurs. You've taken your systems over the decades out to the masses. You're getting all kinds of data points and feedback. I'm now coming to you, Mark, saying, okay, Mark, yes, I want to be this high functioning entrepreneur. I'm having some challenges over here. I have some aches or brain fog or energy issues, whatever the case is going to be. What's the method to your madness, Mark? What's your big picture wise? What's your system of how you'll work with me to get down to not only identifying the root causes, then having a prescriptive solution that's tailor-made for me, that's really going to get me from where I want to be in minimal amount of time, minimal amount of effort and money and all those other good things that I'm in really my on my journey to optimal health? What does that look like with your system?
Such a great question. So my system is all built around time, hence why it's called Chronos, because everything is about time. And the first thing I need to understand from somebody is how do they relate to themselves? So that interoception. So the first thing that happens after I have a call with somebody and finding out who they are, what they do, all these other types of things, is I'm going to get them to answer this questionnaire. Now, this questionnaire is all based on like functional medicine, Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, emotional, psycho-emotional stuff. What it's telling me is how well do you know you? You're telling me these things are off, but I need to know deep down what is really going on with you. And believe it or not, men tend to either skip questions or lie about all of those things on the questionnaire. And women are a lot more emotionally charged. So they're a lot more in touch with themselves. So they answer everything in very deep detail. And I get to know them quite well with that. What this tells me is with the male population, anyway, that come to me, there's a bit of a mindset thing that needs to be worked on there too. So how they relate to themselves, how much time they spend getting to know themselves, because we'll ignore the pains, we'll ignore the aches. We'll again consider that a bowel movement every other day is normal, or bloating is normal, or brain fog is normal. It just means they need more caffeine, whatever. So that's the first stage. Have that questionnaire done. How do you relate to yourself? How well do you know yourself? Very important things. A lot of people will consider it's not, but it's probably one of the most important things because that's the sub-objective data that I need. In between that time, the basic thing that I'll get done is a blood panel because that blood panel is going to give me a snapshot in time as to what's going on in your system. Now, I'll go anywhere from 65 to 150 plus markers. I don't mind how many markers are on there. When I get the lab results back, I will then input that into my functional medicine report. This has got the functional ranges of blood markers, not the common ones that we were talking about earlier. They're very tight and very narrow, which means that a lot of people, when they have these markers done, they're either too high or too low. These ranges are also key for me to understand what's happening within the system in that snapshot. So I've now got the objective data from the bloods. I'm now matching this with the symptomology that you're describing in the questionnaire, which is why it's important that the more you know yourself, the more married they're going to be. And it also shows me how far off you might be as well. So with these marker ranges, I won't look at each marker individually. They all connect. Iron and ferritin connect. Sodium, chloride, ALP, total protein, these all connect. The differentials like neutrophils, eosinophils, all those things, they all connect with white blood cell count and other things because these are talking about immune responses. I will connect all these things together. These marker ranges as well also tell me what's going on when it comes to your environment. As an example, if you've got low thyroid output, so if your thyroid stimulating hormone is low and your T4 is low and your T3 is low, well, this can tell me that because T4 is released at night and T3 is made in the morning, if they're low, you've got too much isolated blue light exposure at night, no sunlight exposure in the morning, because that would be the signal for those conversions to happen. So this tells me simple little things like that, like HbA1c as well, the blood sugar level markers. This can also tell me if you've got some metabolic functions happening there, again, related to isolated blue light, because we know from the studies now that isolated blue light raises insulin secretion and blood sugar without food. So just by sitting under a bright light at night in your living room with your TV on, you're now raising blood sugar, you're raising cortisol, and you're secreting insulin with no food. So this is why when you're sat watching TV, you'll binge because your body's after something to regulate that sugar response. So these things are going to be telling me what's going on from that basic first line principles of what I need to know. There are other tests that I can put in there. I like getting either an organic acid test done, which is telling me metabolites and stuff like that, mitochondrially speaking, or a gut test, because most people's guts are ruined. This will then tell me from a microbiome, parasite, bacteria range what you're lacking and what you're overpopulated in. And then I can balance those out because the microbiome is very individual and everybody's going to need different things. But ultimately, two key ones, bifidobacteria strains and lactobacillus strains, are the key to health. So if those are really low, I'm going to look at populating those because this is going to be very key to the inflammation, very key to the immune system. So these are the main points that I like to go in with people. And from there, I will build you a personalized protocol for however long we're going to be working together, 6 months, a year, where we're going to be looking at the biggest levers that we can pull to start getting you in line with how the body should start feeling again. And then we can start looking at organ age and biological age and start tracking that real world data, slow that pace of aging down, that Dunedin pace of aging, slow all of that down, reduce the aging markers, reduce the inflammation, and just basically get you to a point where that sharpness, that strength, that dominance that you've got on your business can now be put into your everyday life, where you're turning up feeling like you've got the energy, you've got the clarity, you're performing better, you're recovering better, the aches and pains are going, the weight's coming off, you're able to touch your toes, you're able to pick up your grandkids and play with them, whatever the case may be, wherever life throws at you, you are now that high performing individual, not just in the business, but in life at the same time.
What's incredible about that, and Mark, I got to tell you, a lot of what you're saying, I don't necessarily understand, but as I often say on the podcast, when I go into my car, I don't have to understand how the engine works. I just push a button, the engine starts, or if I'm speaking to a mechanic, they'll go into all the technicalities. It doesn't really make a difference for me. I go into my car, I push a button, and it works. On the back end, you're doing all of that for high performing entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And what I love about what you're sharing with us, it's not just, okay, I'm going to hang my hat on this one discipline. You're looking at multidisciplinary kinds of things, Eastern medicine, Western medicine. You mentioned functional medicine. And by the way, Deep Wealth Nation, everything that Mark and I are speaking about today, this is not medical advice. Before you do anything, always consult with a medical professional that's in your life, your doctor, whoever that may be, and get the proper medical advice for you. Mark, what I'm hearing you say, though, is a few things. Number one, here on the Deep Wealth Podcast, we talk about growing businesses. Mark, your business model sucks. It really does, because you're not having clients for life. You're going to get me to my optimal health, and then, hey, we're all done. Best of success with you, Jeffrey. Have a great life. So I love how that's the outlook for you. I want to get you to optimal health. You're not going to need me anymore. And I also love you're going back to basics, because, again, Jeffrey, on base, off base, what I heard you say is give the body enough of what it needs in the right environment, it will heal itself.
It will.
You're helping me do that because now you're blending the natural intelligence of the body with cutting edge science of what we have today.
Yeah.
Different blood markers or tests or peptides or other kinds of things. And by the way, some of the things that you're saying, it doesn't cost any money. In terms of go outside, get some sun, or dim the lights in the house, or wear blue blocking glasses. It's not like I'm going to my wallet every time and having to proverbially write that check. So with your system, it's one-on-one. You're walking me through step by step on a timed basis of doing what matters when it matters to get me back to where I probably forgot what it feels like if I'm most people, what a great night of sleep is like. And oh, by the way, Jeffrey, while you're going through this, you'll get younger, you'll feel better, you'll look better, you'll lose weight. Hey, who doesn't want that? But what's nice about that's not your focus. Your focus is let's get you to optimal health. And those other things, those will follow naturally. So I love how this isn't, oh yeah, we're going to hack you this way or that way. Hey, this is about longevity. This is about health. This is about your sovereign health, which is your sovereign wealth, and getting me back to where I want to be. And again, Mark, everyone is different. Every journey is going to be unique. That said, when you're working with these high-performing entrepreneurs, typically, how long does it take before they start to see results for themselves?
You'll start seeing results within the first 3 months. Your energy will be different. Your sleep will be different. Your mindset, your drive, and your passion will be very different. That's the first thing that I notice with a lot of people is the fact that they're waking up clearer. They don't need as many stimulants anymore, which is important. And if they do need a stimulant, it's done at the right time for the right reasons. And when it comes to their everyday life, they don't have to go to the gym every day and get minimal results. We can reduce that down to 3 times a week and get maximum results with that minimum effort. It's always that minimal effective dose. That whole kind of no pain, no gain approach doesn't work. It has never worked. Where we're at right now is this minimal effective dose. As I've heard you say many times before, what is that 20%, which is going to give you the 80% result? That's the most important thing, because we all know time is precious. And the older we're getting, the more obvious to all of us is the less time that we have. So we want to make sure that we are using and squeezing every last ounce of every last day, because every time we wake up and we're above ground, it's a gift. So we don't want to be driving into our 80s and our 90s fearing it because we're thinking we're going to be decrepit and in pain and stuck in a chair and you have somebody feeding you with a spoon. You want to be able to control that, have, as you say, have that health sovereignty, take that ownership back of your health and not putting it in the hands of others. And this is why I love what I do, because as you say, once the year is up, I'm done, because you should have learned everything that I know, because I'll be teaching you this as we're going through this, because then you can take that to other people and help other people if you so choose, because you're going to be filled with all this knowledge. And you're also going to have all the data to track it. You'll have a health tracker the whole way through, an Aura ring or a Whoop or something like that. So we're monitoring HRV, we're monitoring resting heart rate, sleep depth, REM sleep, steps, stress levels, all those things, because this is how we make those micro changes and we make those adaptations as we go. Because a protocol is built in that snapshot of time, but life happens. And as life happens, we need to, as Aristotle says, adjust ourselves for the winds of that day. So we have to adapt it and change it for you, because you might be traveling. Now, all of a sudden, you're not going to have access to all the comforts that you've got, where you've got everything around you that you need. Okay, so what's the minimal effective dose that we need to take away with us so that we can still perform, have that business meeting, secure that deal, whatever the case may be, but also have the energy to take our family with us and have some downtime with them and sit on the beach and go for hikes and whatever else. Like, it's all that real world adaptation that we do as we're going through all this process.
Wow, so much there. I love how you're working right out of the entrepreneurial playbook, the minimum effective dose. Hey, what's the minimum I need to do to get the most out of it? And as I shared before on the podcast, Deep Wealth Nation, if you want to learn Spanish, well, you have two choices. You can spend 5 years and be 100% proficient, or you can spend 9 months and be 90% proficient, and you'll be thriving at the 9 months because you'll be able to talk. And if there's a word here or there that you don't necessarily understand, you can always find out about that. So I'm hearing you say the same thing. And what's also interesting, Mark, I don't hear this a lot out there. What I'm also hearing you say is every one of your clients, it's a data point of one. And in the traditional medical system, we're being told you can't be a data point of one. You've got to fall into where thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people fall into, because that's all we're set up to do. And this is no slight against medical professionals or doctors. They're doing the best that they can with what they have. But I love what you're saying. Let's apply the minimum effective dose. Let's look to you as a data point of one, because we know every body is unique. So, Mark, you could be eating one particular thing and it's putting you over the top. I can eat that same thing and it has me feel horrible, because our bodies are very different. And I also heard you say, not quite this way, but in my own words, Mark, you're not a one-hit wonder. It's not as though you had success in one area because you were so sick when you were younger. You learned all these different modalities. You've used the word micro changes quite a bit as we've been talking. And you're now looking for, okay, Jeffrey, what are some small tweaks that we can do that give you that minimum effective dose? Yeah, just do 20% of this to get 80, 90% of the results. Or another way of even saying that is, Jeffrey, why are you at the gym 7 days a week for 3 hours a day, where it can be perhaps every other day for a fraction of the time and you'll get as good or better results? You don't hear that a lot that's out there. So, Mark, let me ask you something. For someone in Deep Wealth Nation, as they're listening to us, and again, everyone is different. I get that. What would be one low-hanging fruit when we're done with this episode and they're now about to start their day, whether it be a phone call, a meeting, another activity? What could be one thing someone in Deep Wealth Nation could do that will go a very long way to begin to get them back to their sovereign wealth, otherwise known as their health?
Such a great question. And I have the perfect answer for you. So it's one answer, one thing, split 3 times across the day. So the one thing that our body needs, as I said, is signals. The most important signal is light. There is no way around that. So whatever you do, your first light of the day needs to be the sunrise. You don't have to stare at the sunrise. And again, for medical reasons, please don't stare directly at the sun. But the sunrise, 10 minutes outside, no phone, no glasses, no reading glasses, no sunglasses, bare eyes. And if you can, your chest or your stomach exposed to the light. Get that morning light. 10 minutes, that's all it needs. You can stand out there with your coffee if you need to, but again, no distractions, no phones. Bring your family out with you. Get grounded. Second point of the day, midday. Again, get the eyes on the midday light. We might not notice the difference between 11:58 and midday, but our body knows the difference between the light. Get that midday. And then the final one, which I guess you would call would be the bookend of that, would be the sunset. Same thing. Just get 10 minutes of that exposure. Even if you're indoors and you're working, even if you have to crack open the window and stick your head out for 10 minutes, doesn't matter. And that reminds me, when you're indoors, crack a window open because light acts like a particle and a wave. So it can come through the smallest of gaps. So just open the window, let the light in. That's enough to offset a lot of the stuff that happens from indoors. But those 3 points in one, just light, sunrise, midday, sunset. Do that, it's free. When you do that, you're going to feel energized. You're going to have clearer thought patterns. You're going to have that euphoric feeling, which we get from like when we do like an adrenaline rush kind of thing, because it's releasing beta endorphins. It's releasing another important thing. Not only does it release beta endorphins, which makes you feel good, it also releases endocannabinoids in the brain. So it actually brings our own pain numbing facility online. So just by getting that morning light, you get those things, you get the right hormone productions, your gut metabolism starts, hormones start getting produced. Midday is just going to tell your body it's midday, and sunrise is when your sunset is when your body's getting that signal that it's now time to down regulate, it's now time to calm down, and we're now shifting into parasympathetic. Rest, digest, chill out, and respect the darkness at night. Have as much darkness as you can, because that way then that's when the melatonin is going to be released and you're going to start feeling tired, and that's when you're going to go to bed earlier rather than getting that last Netflix binge, and you're going to sleep deeper, which means you're going to wake up more restored and feeling a lot more energized.
Absolutely love that. That's just 2 minutes of you sharing that with me. I can only imagine when we're working together, all the insights that you're sharing. And we don't have time to go into it in this episode. Sleep, I know that is one of the biggest superpowers that's underrated. It's free.
Yep.
We all do it. A lot of what you're saying is, hey, if you do these things, if you take 30 minutes a day, you'll have better sleep. You'll have better health. It's free. And you're spending the time anyways. Why not do it? A quick side point to that, though, Mark, I know you're over the pond, as they say, over in the UK right now. Here I'm on the coast, the East Coast here in the US side of things, and particularly those who are in the Northeast. It's wintertime. It's freezing. It's overcast. So how does that work in the morning when, hey, sunrise may not be till much later in the day and it's also overcast? I'm not even seeing the sun.
Yep.
How do we handle ourselves in that kind of situation?
It's a great question. So if you can, just make sure that if you're in, again, like the UK right now, our sunrises are like 7:45. It's cloudy, it's overcast. It would mean that you need a little bit longer outside to get the same benefits of a blue sky, sunny morning. Ideally, that would be double the length of time, but I know not a lot of people have that. So I would much rather say 10 minutes than none. When it comes to the sleep side of things, winter is, if you look at animals, winter is all about hibernation. You sleep longer in the winter for a reason. That's there. It's biologically built in. Okay, some people due to work have to be up before the sunrise. I get that. If you do, just make sure you got your blue light blocking glasses, those red lensed ones. Put in some circadianly friendly bulbs, which can be like red incandescents or some red bulbs. Turn them on while the sun's down. Put your iPhone or whatever phone you've got on red light mode so the screen is red. Then when the sun's, and get on with your morning. This is what I do at the moment. Then when the sun comes up, I go outside. That's the first light I see. And then when I come back in, I can have all my normal lights on and stuff like that because my body's already been woken up by that. But if you can get away with sleeping longer, sleep longer. As I say, the sun doesn't come up until 7:45 here. I could theoretically sleep in until 7 if I wanted to, 7:30. I don't, but I could. And that's another option. Just expand that time frame because in the summer we get less sleep and more light, and in the winter we get more darkness, which is more sleep. So it's the offset that happens there.
Default Nation, get more sleep. Don't burn the candle at both ends, as the saying goes, and it's going to lead to better health. And Mark, one quick side note to that. What about when it's really cold outside, like it is right now? And as we're recording this, there's parts of the US and actually around the world, it is much colder than normal. As an example, in Florida right now, never sees, I shouldn't say never, but rarely sees it go below 32 Fahrenheit. And it's been freezing in some parts of Florida. So when it's those kinds of conditions, particularly more in the Northeast, it's really cold outside. Sun's coming up much later. Do we just grin and bear it? We're going outside and being in that cold exposure. Thoughts about that?
Obviously, if the temperature is below the normal temperature range for that time of year, then wrap up accordingly because you're not going to want to get frostbite and chilblains and all those other types of things. Obviously, you're not going to want to stand barefoot on the ground either. That's absolutely fine. There are companies out there that sell grounding shoes. So there's a company that my friend in the UK runs called Barhay. I know they ship to the States. I've got a pair of their grounding shoes. So I wear them when I go out when it's cold. And again, I always recommend exposing as much skin to the light as possible, but when it's that type of temperature, cover up the hands because it's extremities. Make sure your feet are warm extremities and just make sure the face is exposed. 10 minutes would be absolutely fine. And if you are that uncomfortable with the cold, just stick your head out the window. Not a problem at all. But again, with temperature, this is another timekeeper. So going from a 70, 80-degree warm home outside when it's cold is going to feel a lot colder. We need to allow our body to adapt to these temperatures and become temperature accustomed, so to speak. And with that, again, do it safely. But when you're indoors, crack a window, let the temperature drop a little bit. Because again, this is a timekeeper. This is telling our body what season it is. If your body thinks indoors that it's always midday and the sun is up and it's 70, 80 degrees, but yet when you step outside, it's grey and it's minus whatever, and your body's hold on a minute, that doesn't make any sense because I'm going from basically the subtropicals to the Arctic in the space of 2 steps. We need to start becoming a little bit accustomed to that. And from a mitochondrial perspective, and I don't want to get this to be too complicated, but there are two types. You've got coupled and uncoupled. And coupled just means that mitochondria can make their own heat without a heat source. So the more in the winter you can get accustomed to the cold, the more energy the mitochondria are going to produce in the form of heat, and they release things called biophotons. So it's almost like a UV light inside the body. It's as powerful as the sun. Obviously, start doing ice plunges in the middle of winter and stuff like that if you're not accustomed to it. Start with a 10, 20-second cold shower at the end of your normal shower. Just get accustomed to being cold. Let the mitochondrial heat up. And then when you go outside, you won't be as impacted from that temperature change. Yes, again, cover the extremities. That's the most important thing. But you just won't feel it. The same way that you don't feel your shoes when you're walking, you just know that you're walking. Otherwise, being told you've always got shoes on by your brain would be very annoying. Same thing. You just walk outside, you're aware it's cold, but you're not shivering because it's cold. You're just aware that it's cold. And you'll know when you start getting too much and then you'll go in. So just adjust it based on your own physiology.
Now, what's interesting about that, Mark, as you're sharing that, most people don't realize that having the same temperature day in, day out, a very comfortable temperature, and being comfortable all the way through. I have a comfortable chair that I'm sitting in, a comfortable bed that I'm sitting in. It's the worst thing for our bodies because our body, it needs variations. It needs different temperatures. To your point, just like there's a light cue, the temperature is a cue, and changing things up. Okay, it's cold right now. It's warm right now. It's something in between. That's why we haven't talked about this. Things like the sauna has such health benefits. Again, done at the right time, in the right frequency is critical. The dose makes the poison, as they say with that, but varying it up, that is not so healthy to be comfortable doing the same temperature and same kind of routine all the time without variation. So I hear you loud and clear on that. And Deep Health Nation, are you picking up on this? It's small things, but knowing what to do, when to do it, and for how long to do it can make all the difference. And Mark, what you're sharing with me, my takeaway here is these small things and a whole lot more that's in your system helps get me back to optimal health. When I have my health, I have fulfillment, I have joy, I have more success in my life, I have the energy, the focus to take my company to the next level. Really love what I'm hearing, and I appreciate what you're doing and how you're making such a difference out there, not only for the entrepreneurial community, which is your focus, for society in general, how you're paying it forward to make that difference. So speaking of making a difference, we're going to go into wrap-up mode here on the Zeepot Podcast. It's our tradition. It's really my privilege, my honor. I ask the same question to every guest. It's a fun question. Let me set this up for you. When you think of the movie Back to the Future, you have that magical DeLorean car that will take you to any point in time. Now, Mark, imagine it's tomorrow morning. This is the fun part. You look outside your window. Not only is the DeLorean car curbside, the door is open. It's waiting for you to go in. You're not going to hop in and go to any point in your life. Mark, as a young child, a teenager, whatever point in time it would be, what are you telling your younger self in terms of life wisdom or life lessons? Or, hey, Mark, do this, but don't do that. What would it sound like?
Wow. Well, number one, Back to the Future is my favorite film of all time. So when you said that, I was like, okay, I love this question already. Only from a time perspective, I would go back to me when I was 13, 14 years old. Because back then I wanted to be a musician. I had a record deal when I was like 17 and stuff, and that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to sing and write and all those other types of things. But on the other side of that was I was very much into my gym. I was a very accomplished martial artist. I had the only company in the UK that was doing like sports science and stuff. Then I had that in front of me and I was making a decision which way to go. And I chose the music industry rather than this way. As you are all probably putting the pieces together, I've full circled and gone back to the original choices, and I'm doing the science of nutrition and biology and quantum biology and all those things now. I would say to myself back then, in 30 years' time, you're going to be doing this anyway. Do it now because this is where the future is going to be. Like the health of the world is going to be getting worse. There's going to be more than enough musicians out there by the time that you're in your 30s and 40s. And even when in your 40s, there's going to be AI doing it for you, and you're not going to need to be doing it anymore. So I would tell myself, go into that side of things, study that more, understand that more, and not just the physical side, but the spiritual side, the emotional side, all those things. I do all the things that I've just done in the last 15 years, but earlier.
Wow, a lot of takeaways there. Do it now, don't wait. Hey, do what's right, not necessarily what's easy.
Yep.
And that's really an anthem for us entrepreneurs. We have so much going on. Do what's right. Don't take the easy path. Oftentimes, doing what's right is not what's easy. Mark, a lot of wisdom there. For someone in Deep Wealth Nation, they have a question for you. They like to work with you. They want to speak to you. How or where is the best place online to reach you?
The best way to reach me would be via email. So you can always contact me, Mark at markdini.com. So that's Mark with a K, and Dini is spelled D for Delta, I for Igloo, N for November, I for Igloo, like the famous magician Houdini. So Mark at markdini.com. Just reach out to me there. I'm always on my emails. I'll always get back to you, and then we can take it from there.
Deep Wealth Nation doesn't get any easier. All this is in the show notes. Why not reach out to Mark? Ask him your toughest questions. See where that goes. I'm sure you'll come out of that being more educated, having more insights and strategies than when you came into that. Well, Mark, it's official. This is a wrap. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, may you continue to thrive and prosper while you remain healthy and safe. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, brother. Thank you for having me.
So there you have it, Deep Wealth Nation. What did you think? So with all that said, and as we wrap it up, I have another question for you. Actually, it's more of a personal favor. Did you find this episode helpful? Have you found other episodes of the Deep Wealth Podcast empowering and a game changer for your journey? And if you said yes, and I really hope you did, I have a small but really meaningful way that you can actually help us out and keep these episodes coming to you. Are you ready for it? The dramatic pause. I'll just wait a moment. Drum roll, please. Subscribe. Please subscribe to the Deep Wealth Podcast on your favorite podcast channel. When you subscribe to the Deep Wealth Podcast, you're saving yourself time. Every episode automatically comes to you. And I want you to know that we meticulously craft every one of our episodes to have impactful strategies, stories, expert insights that are designed to help you grow your profits, increase the value of your business, and yes, even optimize your post-exit life and your life right now, whatever you want that to look like. And every time you subscribe and a fellow entrepreneur subscribe, it's a testament to how together, yes, we are changing the social fabric of society. One business owner at a time, one liquidity event at a time. So don't let the momentum stop here. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast channel. You'll never miss an episode. You'll be the first to hear from the top industry leaders, the innovators, the disruptors that are really changing and shaping the business world. And maybe you're commuting, maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're taking a well-deserved break that we spoke all about on this episode. The Deep Wealth Podcast, it's your reliable source for the next big idea that could literally revolutionize your business. So once again, please hit that subscribe button, stay connected, inspired, and ahead of the curve. And again, your next big breakthrough moment, it might just be one episode away. Maybe it was even this episode. So all that said, thank you so much for listening. And remember, your wealth isn't just about the money in the bank. It's about the depth of your journey and the impact that you're creating. So let's continue this journey together. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, may you continue to thrive and prosper while you remain healthy and safe. Thank you so much. God bless.